He wanted a war. He wanted me screaming on his doorstep, sobbing into his voicemail, and making a scene that would validate his bruised ego. Instead, when Davis texted me at 6:14 a.m. on my 30th birthday to cancel our wedding and our entire life, I didn't cry. I didn't call. I typed 2 letters, K, and blocked him. I didn't know it then, but that single syllable was about to destroy him completely. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. The morning sun was hitting the west wall of the bedroom, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. Dust I would have normally vacuumed up by now if I wasn't pretending to be asleep. It was April 18th, my 30th birthday. The big 3-0. I was lying in bed, eyes squeezed shut, regulating my breathing. I was waiting for the surprise. See, Davis wasn't subtle. For 3 weeks, he'd been acting weird, jumpy, distant, hiding his phone. In my head, I had constructed this elaborate narrative where his distance was actually stress about planning a massive birthday surprise. I was expecting breakfast in bed, maybe balloons, maybe a reproposal with a better ring, or just acknowledgement. I heard the buzz of my phone on the nightstand, just once. Short. My eyes snapped open. The other side of the bed was empty. Not just empty, cold. The sheets were pulled up tight, like nobody had slept there at all. Mochi, my calico cat, was curled up in the dead center of his pillow, looking at me with narrow, judgmental eyes. I reached for the phone. It was 6:14 a.m. New message, Davis, mobile. I swiped it open, sitting up against the headboard. The text was so long I had to scroll. That was the first bad sign. Happy birthday texts are usually short. Happy birthday, babe. Love you. This looked like a terms of service update. I read it. Then I read it again. Lana, look, I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. I can't do this anymore. I've been wanting to restructure our future for weeks, but didn't know how to approach the subject without hurting you. This relationship isn't yielding the return on investment emotionally that either of us needs. I don't think we should get married. You deserve a partner who is 100% invested in the project of us, and I'm just not. I'm sorry to do this over text, but I thought a clean break via written communication would be more efficient for both of us to process. I'll be staying at my sister's. Take care. I stared at the screen. Restructure our future? Yielding the return on investment? He sounded like he was firing a mid-level marketing associate, not dumping his fiancé of 4 years on the morning of her milestone birthday. I waited for the crushing wait. I waited for the sob that starts in your stomach and breaks your ribs on the way out. I sat there, freezing in my oversized t-shirt, staring at the cursor blinking at the bottom of the screen. But the tears didn't come. Instead, a sensation washed over me that felt like ice water in my veins. It was clarity. Absolute, terrifying clarity. For 8 months, I had been the crazy one. I had been the nag. I had been the one asking why he was late, why he smelled like different cologne, why he changed his passcode. He had gaslit me into believing I was paranoid. You're just stressed about the wedding, Lana. You're projecting, Lana. This text didn't break my heart. It vindicated my sanity. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I could write a novel back. I could scream. I could demand he come here and say this to my face. I could ask why. But I looked at that line again. I thought a clean break via written communication would be more efficient. Efficient? He wanted efficient? I typed 1 letter. Then I backspaced. No, that was too much effort. I typed K, I hit send. Then, without letting myself pause to breathe, I went to his contact card. I scrolled down to the bottom. Block this caller. Tap. Confirm. I opened Instagram. Search Davis Official. 3 dots. Block. Facebook. Block. LinkedIn. Block. Twitter. Block. Snapchat. Block. Venmo. Block. I moved with the speed of a SWAT team breaching a building. I didn't let myself think about the 4 years of photos I was vaporizing. I just nuked the bridge while I was still standing on it. Mochi meowed, stretching her paws toward me. Happy birthday to me, Mochi. I whispered. My voice didn't even shake. I was about to throw the phone across the room when a thought hit me like a physical slap. The bank accounts. We had a joint savings account, the wedding fund. We'd been contributing to it for 18 months. $15,000 of my bonuses, tax returns, and scrimped savings were sitting in there, alongside maybe $5,000 of his. Davis was bad at liquidity, as he liked to say. I opened the Chase app, my fingers finally starting to tremble, not from sadness, but from panic. If he was restructuring, did that mean he was liquidating? Face ID scanned. The little loading wheel spun, checking. $1,220 savings. The wedding. $12,000. Wait, it should have been nearly $20,000. I clicked on the transaction history, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Pending, Vandalay Luxury Goods, 1,750 trainees. Date, yesterday. What the hell is Vandalay Luxury Goods? I said it out loud. The room was too quiet. I scrambled out of bed, tripping over the duvet, and ran to my laptop on the desk. I typed it in. Vandalay Luxury. Google auto-filled it. It was a high-end watch reseller based in Dallas. He hadn't drained the account to steal the money. He had bought himself a watch, a freaking Breitling. I knew exactly which one, too, the Super Ocean Heritage he'd been drooling over for 6 months. He bought himself an $8,000 breakup present using our wedding money the day before he dumped me. You absolute sociopath, I hissed. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number on the back of my debit card. Welcome to Chase, the robotic voice chirped. For English, press 1. 1, I shouted, pacing the small bedroom. Representative, agent, human. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Please say, fraud, I screamed. Fraud, theft, emergency. Okay, let me get you to a specialist. Generic jazz music started playing. I put it on speaker and started throwing clothes on, leggings, a hoodie. I didn't care. I felt like I was vibrating. I needed to freeze that money before the transaction cleared. 3 minutes of jazz. 5 minutes. 7 minutes. Thank you for holding. This is Brenda. How can I? Hi, Brenda. I cut her off, my voice breathless. I need to freeze a joint account immediately. My ex-fiancé has made an unauthorized purchase of nearly $8,000, and I need to stop it. I see, Brenda said, her voice agonizingly slow. I'm sorry to hear that. For security purposes, can you verify the last deposit amount? It was, oh God, it was my paycheck. $2,250.12. Please, Brenda, the charge is pending. It's for a watch. He bought a watch with our venue money. Okay, let me take a look. Yes, I see the pending transaction for Vandalay. Since it's a joint account, both account holders are technically authorized to spend the funds. I stopped pacing. I froze in the middle of the room, one sock on, one sock off. Excuse me? If his name is on the account, ma'am, it's not technically fraud. He has right of access. He stole it. I felt the hysteria rising in my throat. He left me this morning and he used our wedding money to buy a luxury timepiece. You have to stop it. I can't reverse a legitimate authorization from a joint owner, Brenda said, sounding genuinely sympathetic but useless. However, I can freeze the remaining balance so no further funds can be removed. Would you like me to do that? Yes, I choked out. Freeze it. Lock it down. Nuclear winter, Brenda. Nobody gets a cent out of that account unless they show up with a blood sample and a subpoena. Done. The account is frozen. Is there anything else? No, thank you. I hung up. I stared at the phone. He got the watch. He got the $8,000 watch. I walked over to the closet. His side was still full of his suits, his business casual vests, his expensive leather loafers. Restructuring, I muttered. I wasn't sad anymore. I was at war. He said what? Jules's voice carried across the entire patio of the Hive. 3 tables turned to look at us. A waiter carrying a tray of avocado toasts paused, sensing danger. He said the relationship wasn't yielding the necessary return on investment, I repeated, reading the text off my phone. I had screenshot it before deleting the thread. Evidence. Jules, my best friend since freshman orientation, slammed her mimosa down so hard a little wave of orange juice sloshed onto the table. Return on investment? Is he dating you or buying a mutual fund? That corporate Ken doll, that absolute cardboard cutout of a human being. He also bought an $8,000 watch with the wedding money yesterday, I added, picking at my fruit bowl. I couldn't eat. My stomach felt like a knot of old electrical wires. He stole the money? Jules's eyes went wide. She grabbed my hand across the table. Lana, we're going to jail. I'm going to commit a crime, and you're going to be my accessory. We're burning his car. I froze the rest, I said. But yeah, he got the Breitling. On your birthday, she whispered, shaking her head. On your 30th birthday. Lana, how are you sitting here? Why aren't you under the table? I don't know, I said honestly. I took a sip of my coffee. I think I'm in shock. Or maybe I'm just done? Does that make sense? I feel like I've been holding my breath for 6 months trying to make him happy, and now I can just exhale. That's the trauma talking, Jules said, signaling the waiter for more drinks. We need more alcohol and bacon, massive amounts of grease. The waiter hurried over. Everything okay, ladies? My friend's fiancé just dumped her via text and stole her life savings to buy a watch, Jules said cheerfully. We need a pitcher of mimosas and a side of vengeance, and ranch dressing. The waiter blinked, looked at me with horrified pity, and nodded. On it. Immediate priority. My phone was silent on the table, face down. But suddenly, Jules's phone started buzzing. It vibrated against the metal table with an angry, aggressive hum. Jules looked at it. Her face dropped. You have got to be kidding me. Who is it? It's him. It's Davis. My heart stopped. Don't answer it. Oh, I am absolutely answering it, Jules said, her thumb hovering over the green button. I am going to eviscerate him. Jules, no. She tapped the screen and hit speaker. Speaker, she mouthed to me. Jules? Davis's voice filled the space between us. He sounded breathless, high-pitched, not the cool, collected, restructuring voice from the text. Is Lana with you? Is she okay? Oh, she's fantastic, Davis, Jules said, her voice dripping with poison. She's just calculating her return on investment. It's pretty low. Listen, I can't get a hold of her, he stammered. I think her phone is off, or service is down. I've called 6 times. My texts aren't delivering. She blocked you, you idiot, Jules said. She blocked you on everything. You're done. You don't get to talk to her. There was a silence on the other end, a frantic, staticky silence. What do you mean, blocked? His voice cracked. There are logistics, the lease. The deposits. She can't just block me. That's childish. I felt a surge of heat in my chest. Childish? I reached out and tapped the mute button on Jules's screen. Hang up, I whispered. Don't give him the satisfaction. You want logistics, Davis? Jules said, ignoring me, her voice rising. Here's a logistic. If you come within 500 feet of her, I will personally... I grabbed the phone and ended the call. The silence rushed back in. He sounded scared, I said, frowning. Why did he sound scared? Because he lost control, Jules said, pouring the last of her drink into her glass. He wrote a script, Lana. He wanted you to beg. He wanted to be the sad, conflicted hero who just couldn't do it anymore. You blocking him? You ghosting him back? That wasn't in the script. She raised her glass. To the block button. The greatest invention of the 21st century. I picked up my water glass. To the block button. That evening, the condo felt like a museum of a life that didn't exist anymore. Every object was charged with a memory I now had to delete. The espresso machine we bought for Christmas, the throw blanket from our trip to Santa Fe. I was standing in the kitchen, aggressively shoving Tupperware into a trash bag. Why was I throwing away Tupperware? I didn't know, it just felt like the right thing to do when my phone rang again. I checked the screen, ready to block another one of Davis's friends. Caller ID Darla Harrison, his sister. My thumb hovered over the decline button. Darla was difficult. She was older than Davis, richer than Davis, and colder than Davis. She lived in a glass house in Westlake Hills and usually looked at me like I was a smudge on her pristine windows. She had probably called to yell at me for hurting her precious baby brother, but curiosity got the better of me. I accepted the call. "Hello, Darla." "Lana," Darla's voice was crisp. "I'm going to make this brief because I have a migraine. If you're calling to defend him, Darla laughed, a sharp barking sound. "He is currently lying on my Italian leather chaise lounge, wearing dirty sweatpants, eating my imported prosciutto straight from the packet, and moaning about how you erased him." I paused, holding a plastic container of leftover pasta. "He's at your place?" "Unfortunately. He showed up at 7 a.m. with a duffel bag and a tragic look on his face. He told me he ended it." She sighed, the sound of ice clinking in a glass. "Lana, look, you and I haven't always vibed, but I have zero tolerance for cowardice. And sending a text message on your birthday? It was pretty bad," I admitted. "It was pathetic," she corrected. "He's pacing the living room right now. He keeps refreshing his Instagram feed. He asked me to check my Instagram to see if you posted anything. He's obsessed with the fact that you haven't posted a sad girl status update." "I blocked him," I said. "I know, he told me. He said, 'She went dark, Darla. Who goes dark? It's unnatural.'" Darla took a sip of whatever she was drinking. "Here's the thing. He's planning to come by the condo tomorrow. He wants to explain himself. He thinks if he sees you, he can spin this so he doesn't look like the villain." "I don't want to see him." "Good," Darla said. "Don't. Change the locks. Seriously, he still has a key, right?" "Yeah. Call a locksmith. Tonight. Do not let him in. He needs to understand that over means over. He's used to people cleaning up his messes. Our mother is already calling me asking how we can fix this. Don't let him fix it." I felt a sudden, unexpected rush of gratitude. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," Darla said, her voice dropping a decibel, "he borrowed money from me last week. Said it was for a wedding surprise. I'm guessing that surprise is on his wrist right now?" "The Breitling," I said. "The Breitling," she confirmed. "So he's a liar and a thief. Destroy him, Lana. Honestly, it'll be good for his character development." Click. By noon the next day, the digital siege had begun. Since I had blocked his number, Davis had moved to alternative warfare. He was using burner apps. He was using his work phone. He was, I suspected, using the phones of random strangers he accosted on the street. My phone was on Do Not Disturb, but the voicemail notification badge kept ticking up. 12 voicemails. I sat at my kitchen island with a mug of black coffee, watching the number climb. The silence in the apartment was heavy, but it wasn't lonely. It was the silence of a bunker. I decided to listen to a few, just to gauge the threat level. Click. Voicemail 1, 9:45 a.m. "Lana, it's me. Look, this is ridiculous. You can't just not answer. I know you're there. I can see your Spotify activity. You're listening to Survivor by Destiny's Child? Really? That's a bit on the nose, isn't it? Call me." Delete. Voicemail 2, 11:20 a.m. "Hey, it's Davis again, calling from the office landline. Look, I'm sorry about the text, okay?" I panicked. "I should have done it in person. I know that. But you blocking me is making this impossible. We have bills. We have the venue. You need to grow up and talk to me." Delete. Voicemail 3, 1:15 p.m. "Lana, pick up. I'm worried about you. Are you hurting yourself? Do I need to call the police for a wellness check? This silence is... It's manipulative, Lana. That's what it is. You're manipulating me by not letting me explain why I dumped you." I laughed, a dry, harsh bark of a laugh that startled Mochi. "Manipulative," I said to the empty room. I'm sitting here drinking coffee and painting my toenails, Davis. I'm not playing 4D chess. I'm just not playing. It was a revelation. For months, I had been the manager of his emotions. If he sighed, I asked what was wrong. If he was quiet, I tried to fill the silence. If he was angry, I tried to fix it. Now, he was spiraling and I didn't have to do a damn thing. I didn't have to fix his panic. I didn't have to soothe his guilt. His feelings were trapped inside his own phone, bouncing off the walls of my voicemail box, never touching me. It was the most peaceful afternoon of my life. Saturday morning, the revenge renovation began. I walked into the living room and really looked at it. For 3 years, Davis had insisted on a minimalist, mid-century modern aesthetic, which really just meant beige. Beige sofa, beige rug, beige throw pillows, a glass coffee table with sharp edges that I banged my shin on weekly. It's sophisticated, he used to say. It's clean. It was sterile. It looked like a dentist's waiting room in 1998. I grabbed a cardboard box from the closet. First, the coffee table books, the history of brutalist architecture, watchmaking in the 20th century, into the box. Next, the framed photos, a picture of us in Cabo, a picture of us at his company Christmas party. I didn't even take them out of the frames. I just threw the frames, glass and all, into the box. Crash, tink. Then I got to the lamp. It was this hideous, spindly thing made of brass and smoked glass that cost $400. Davis loved it. He wouldn't let me turn on the overhead lights because the lamp creates ambiance. It gave off roughly the same amount of light as a dying firefly. I unplugged it. I carried it to the balcony door. I hesitated. I was a responsible person. I recycled. I donated to Goodwill. Restructuring, I whispered. I walked the lamp out the front door, down the hall to the trash chute room. It was too big for the chute. There was a large dumpster bin for oversized items in the corner. I lifted the lamp. It felt heavy, like the weight of every argument we'd ever had about aesthetics. I hurled it into the bin. The sound of shattering glass and crunching metal echoed off the concrete walls. It was a symphony. I walked back to my apartment, dusting my hands off. The living room looked empty. It looked barren. It looked perfect. Sunday, day 3. I was in the kitchen making toast when Mochi's ears swiveled toward the front door. She let out a low, guttural growl. Then came the knock. Bang, bang, bang. Lana! I know you're in there. It was him. I froze, butter knife in hand. I crept toward the door, my socks sliding silently on the hardwood. I pressed my eye to the peephole. The fisheye lens distorted him, but even so, Davis looked like a wreck. He was wearing a wrinkled blue button-down shirt, the same one he had worn in his work selfie on Friday. His hair, usually gelled within an inch of its life, was flat and greasy. There were dark purple smudges under his eyes. He was holding... Were those flowers? They were carnations, a gas station bouquet. Half of them were already drooping. Lana, please, he said, leaning his forehead against the wood. Open the door. I just want 5 minutes. I made a mistake. I stood there, holding my breath. I freaked out, he shouted, his voice cracking. I got scared, the wedding, the commitment. I panicked, but we can fix this. You and me, we're a team, right? Team Divana, remember? I gagged. Physically gagged. Team Divana was a joke hashtag I made up 2 years ago. He hated it then. Now he was using it like a lifeline. I love you, he yelled. Doesn't that matter? I love you. I looked down at Mochi. She was sitting at my feet, staring at the door with zero sympathy. Lana, come on, don't make me beg. It's humiliating. Good, I thought. Be humiliated. He waited. He knocked again. He kicked the door lightly. Fine, he snapped, his tone shifting instantly from pleading to angry. Be a bitch about it. Be cold. I'm trying here. He threw the flowers down. I heard the plastic wrapper crinkle as they hit the welcome mat. I'm leaving a note, he muttered. Read it, or don't, whatever. I heard paper sliding under the door, then heavy footsteps stomping away toward the elevator. I waited 5 full minutes. Then I unlocked the deadbolt, which I had rekeyed yesterday thanks to Darla's advice. I opened the door. The carnations were sadder than I expected, pink and white and dying. I picked up the note. It was written on the back of a receipt for a breakfast taco. Lana, I'm sorry. I really am. I'm staying at Darla's. Call me. We need to figure out the venue deposit. I think we can get it back if we say it was a medical emergency. D. The venue deposit, I read out loud. Even in his apology, he was worried about the money. I stepped out, picked up the flowers, and walked them to the trash chute. Monday morning, I had taken the day off work. Sloan, my boss, was understanding when I emailed her saying, personal emergency, to deal with the administration of untying a life. Priority 1, the venue, the Hilltop Gardens. It cost $12,000 just to reserve the date. We'd put down a 50% deposit, $6,000. I called the events coordinator, a woman named Misty who used too many exclamation points in her emails. Hi, Misty, this is Lana. I'm calling to cancel the wedding on October 14th. Oh, Lana, Misty's voice was bright. You mean postpone, right? Davis called this morning. My grip tightened on the phone. What did he say? He was so sweet. He said you guys had a sudden family medical issue, his grandmother, right? And needed to push the date to next spring. We went ahead and moved your deposit to a holding status, so you won't lose the money. Isn't that great? I saw red. Misty, I said, my voice dangerously calm, Davis's grandmother died in 2012. There is no medical emergency. The wedding is off permanently. We are broken up. Oh. The cheerfulness evaporated. Oh dear. I need to cancel the contract and trigger the refund clause. I know the contract says if we cancel 6 months out, we get 50% of the deposit back. That's $3,000. I want that processed today. I can't do that over the phone, Misty stammered. Since Davis already initiated a postponement, the system has locked the funds. To override it to a cancellation, I need both parties to sign a release form. Or, well, if one party shows up with proof of what? Proof that the relationship is dissolved. It prevents one angry partner from canceling the wedding behind the other's back. I am coming down there, I said. I will be there in 20 minutes. Do not let him move that date. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and marched to my car. The drive was a blur of rage. He was trying to keep the venue? Why? To trap me? Or did he think he could talk me back into it before October? I stormed into the Hilltop Gardens office. Misty looked terrified. Where is the form? I demanded. She slid a piece of paper across the mahogany desk. I just need you to sign here, and I checked with my manager. Since you're the primary contact, your signature is enough to cancel, but what? Davis is still listed as the payee for the refund. The check will go to him. I stared at her. He paid with a check from our joint account, which is frozen. If you send him a check, he'll cash it into his personal account. That's policy, Misty squeaked. Change the policy, I snapped, or write the check to Lana Benson right now. I spent an hour arguing with a manager named Chad. In the end, I didn't get the check. They mailed it to the address on file, my condo. But the victory was that I got the cancellation confirmation in writing. Event status, canceled. I took a photo of the document and texted it to Darla. Me. Tell your brother the wedding is canceled. The venue knows Grandma is dead. Darla. Thumbs up emoji. Savage. Tuesday. I had to go back to work. I couldn't hide forever, and honestly, the routine felt like armor. I worked at a mid-sized tech firm in downtown Austin as a project lead. It was a glass-walled, open-plan office where privacy went to die. I dressed like I was going to court. Navy blazer, sharp heels, red lipstick, war paint. I walked in at 8:30 a.m. People smiled. Happy belated birthday, someone chirped. I smiled back. Thanks. I sat at my desk, opened my email, and drowned myself in spreadsheets. It was working. I was functioning. Then, at 10:15 a.m., the internal messenger pinged. Reception, Kelly. Hey, Lana. There's a guy here? Davis? He says it's an emergency. My stomach dropped through the floor. He wouldn't. He wouldn't come to my job. Me. Tell him I'm in a meeting. Tell him to leave. Kelly. I did. He's loud. He says he's not leaving until you come down. I stood up. My hands were shaking, but I clenched them into fists. This was a violation. This was the one place that was mine. I walked to the elevators. I pressed the lobby button. When the doors opened, I heard him before I saw him. I just need to speak to her. She's my fiancé. You can't keep me from my fiancé. Davis was standing at the sleek white reception desk, leaning over Kelly, who looked ready to cry. He looked worse than Sunday. He hadn't shaved. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt that said, "Keep Austin Weird." 2 security guards, Mike and Jose, who I chatted with every morning, were flanking him. "Davis," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the lobby noise like a knife. He spun around. "Lana! Finally! God, tell these mall cops to back off." "Mike, Jose," I said, stepping off the elevator but keeping my distance. "This man is harassing me. I have asked him not to contact me. Please remove him." Davis's jaw dropped. "Remove me?" "Lana, stop acting crazy. I'm here to talk. I brought you coffee." He held up a Starbucks cup. It was shaking. "I don't want your coffee, Davis. I want you to leave." "We were together 4 years," he shouted, stepping toward me. Mike, the larger guard, stepped in front of him. "You can't just throw that away because of one text. I was scared. I'm sorry. Look at me. I'm a mess." "You're making a scene," I said coldly. "Go home." "I don't have a home," he screamed, his voice echoing off the glass walls. "You changed the locks. I'm sleeping on a chaise lounge. You ruined my life." "Sir, you need to exit the building," Mike said, grabbing Davis's arm. "Don't touch me." Davis yanked his arm back, spilling the hot coffee all over the pristine white floor. That was it. Jose grabbed his other arm. They started dragging him backward toward the revolving doors. "Lana!" he wailed, his feet sliding in the coffee puddle. "Lana, please, I love you. Stop this." I watched him go. I stood there, spine straight, chin up, while 30 people in the lobby stared. I didn't look away until he was shoved out onto the sidewalk. Then I looked at Kelly. "I'm so sorry about the floor, Kelly. I'll call maintenance." I turned around and walked back to the elevators. I didn't run. I walked. I made it back to my desk before the adrenaline crash hit. My hands were trembling so hard I couldn't type. Everyone was looking at me. They were pretending not to, but they were. The office IM pinged again. Sloan, director. My office. Now. This was it. I was getting fired. You can't have your ex-fiancé screaming in the lobby and spilling coffee on security and keep your job as a project lead. It's unprofessional. It's drama. I grabbed my notebook. I took a deep breath. I walked to the corner office. Sloan was sitting behind her desk. She was a terrifying woman, steely gray hair, eyes that could x-ray your soul, and a reputation for eating underperforming managers for lunch. "Sit," she said. I sat. "So," Sloan said, leaning back. "That was interesting." "I apologize, Sloan," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It was a personal matter that escalated. I've handled it. It won't happen again." "The guy with the coffee stain? My ex-fiancé. The one you were supposed to marry in October?" "Yes, the wedding is off." Sloan studied me. She tapped a pen against her chin. "He was screaming like a toddler. You were standing there like a statue. I was watching on the security feed." I flinched. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," she said sharply. "Most people would have cried, or screamed back, or run away. You assessed the threat, deployed security resources, and neutralized the situation without raising your voice. That's rare." She opened a folder on her desk. "I've been looking for a senior lead for the Phoenix project. You know the one. It's a nightmare. High stakes, difficult clients, impossible deadlines. It requires someone who doesn't crack under pressure. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. It comes with a 20% raise and your own office, which has a door you can lock in case Mr. Coffee Stain comes back. I stared at the paper. Offer of employment, senior project lead. You're offering me a promotion? I asked, confused. After I just caused a scene in the lobby? You didn't cause it, Sloan said. You managed it. I need managers. Do you want the job or not? I looked at the salary. It was enough to cover the rent on the condo by myself. It was enough to buy 10 Breitling watches. I looked up at Sloan and smiled. A real smile. I'll take it. Good, Sloan said. Now get back to work and tell Kelly to use the industrial cleaner on the floor. Tuesday evening. The adrenaline from the lobby incident had faded, replaced by a hollow, vibrating exhaustion. I was on my couch, my beige, boring couch, staring at the ceiling fan spinning. My buzzer rang. It was Jules. I have Kung Pao chicken and I have Intel, she announced through the intercom. Buzz me up. 2 minutes later, she was in my living room unpacking white cardboard boxes onto the coffee table. The smell of grease, chili peppers, and MSG filled the sterile air of the condo. It smelled like life. Okay, eat first or tea first? Jules asked, cracking open a fortune cookie before we'd even started. Tea, I said, grabbing a pair of chopsticks. Spill it. Who is she? Because there is always a she. You don't blow up a 4-year relationship via text at 6 a.m. unless you have a backup plan. Jules pulled out her phone. She looked gleeful, terrifyingly gleeful. Okay, so you know my friend Ashley, the one who works in HR at Davis's firm? Yeah, Ashley is a spy, a beautiful, gossiping spy. She accessed the company directory and cross-referenced it with Davis's Venmo history. Jules tapped her screen and turned it toward me. I looked at the photo. It was a girl. She looked young, painfully young. She was wearing a crop top and holding a red Solo cup, standing in what looked like a frat house basement. Meet Brianna, Jules said. She's the new sales coordinator. She started 3 months ago. How old is she? I asked, feeling a cold rock settle in my stomach. 22, Jules said. She graduated from UT last May. Her Instagram bio says living for the weekend and has a butterfly emoji. 22, I repeated. I was 30. I had a 401k, I had a mortgage. Brianna probably still had a student ID. But wait, Jules said, holding up a finger. Here's the kicker. Here's the part that proves God is real and she has a twisted sense of humor. What? Ashley told me the office rumor mill is on fire. Apparently Davis has been mentoring Brianna for months. Lunches, late nights, sales training. Classic cliche. Jules took a bite of an egg roll. So Monday morning, yesterday, Davis goes into work. He's all pumped up. He's free, he's single, he's got his new watch. He goes to Brianna's cubicle and tells her, I did it, I left Lana, we can be together now, real relationship time. I stopped chewing. And Brianna freaked out, Jules laughed. It was a sharp barking sound. She literally recoiled. She told him, Whoa, Davis, I'm 22. I'm not looking to be a stepmom to a cat. I just wanted to have fun. She dumped him on the spot. I stared at Jules. She dumped him? Immediately. She told him he was too intense and moving too fast. Then she asked to be transferred to a different department because he was creeping her out. I set my chopsticks down. A laugh bubbled up in my chest. It started small, then grew until I was doubling over, gasping for air. He blew up his life, I wheezed. He canceled the wedding. He humiliated himself in my lobby. He is sleeping on his sister's chaise lounge. For a girl who dumped him before lunch? Poetic justice, Jules said, clinking her beer bottle against my water glass. He left a wife for a weekend and he ended up with neither. He has nothing, I said, wiping a tear from my eye. A tear of mirth, not sadness. He has absolutely nothing. And you, Jules said, pointing a chopstick at me, you have Kung Pao chicken. You win. Wednesday. My phone rang at my desk. I didn't recognize the number. It was a Connecticut area code. My heart skipped a beat. Connecticut. I answered. This is Lana. Lana, it's Patricia. Davis's mother, the matriarch, the woman who wore pearls to breakfast and had once told me that my career was a nice little hobby until the babies come. Hello, Patricia, I said, my voice dropping into my professional, senior project lead register. I am calling because I am frankly appalled, Patricia said. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. Her voice was ice over granite. Davis tells me you have cut off all contact, that you had him removed by security, like a criminal. He was causing a disturbance, Patricia. He is heartbroken, she snapped. He is a sensitive boy, Lana. He made a mistake. People make mistakes. But the way you are behaving, it's vindictive. It's cruel. You're punishing him for getting cold feet. Cold feet? I swiveled my chair around to look out the window at the Austin skyline. Is that what he told you? He told me he panicked about the wedding. And now you're refusing to even speak to him to work it out. After 4 years, Lana, we treated you like family. Patricia, I said, ask him about Brianna. Silence. Dead silence on the line. Who? Brianna. The 22-year-old sales assistant he's been sleeping with for 3 months. Ask him about the $8,000 watch he bought with our wedding venue money. Ask him why she dumped him on Monday morning. I don't believe you, Patricia stammered. Her composure was cracking. Davis wouldn't. He was stressed. He's not stressed, Patricia. He's a cheater, and he's a thief. And quite frankly, he's not my problem anymore. He's yours. Lana, you can't just... I'm hanging up now, I said. Please don't call me again. I'm changing my number tomorrow. You are making a huge mistake, she hissed. You will never find a family like ours again. God, I hope not, I said, and I hung up. I sat there for a moment, my hand resting on the receiver. I felt lighter. Lighter than I had felt in years. That was the last thread. Snapped. Saturday, the dress. It was hanging in the back of the closet in a white garment bag, a custom-altered Vera Wang, strapless, lace bodice, trumpet skirt. It cost $4,200. My mother had cried when I put it on. Now it looked like a ghost. I had listed it on a resale app on Tuesday. By Thursday, I had a buyer. I drove to a Starbucks parking lot in Round Rock to meet her. It felt shady, like a drug deal, except instead of cocaine, I was trafficking in broken dreams. A Honda Civic pulled up next to me. A girl hopped out. Maria. She looked exactly like I had 4 years ago, young, glowing, vibrating with excitement. Lana? She asked. That's me. I opened my trunk. Here it is. She unzipped the bag right there in the parking lot. She gasped. Oh my God, it's perfect. It's even better than the pictures. She held the hanger up against her body. She did a little twirl. My wedding is in 2 months, she gushed. I've been looking for this exact dress, but the boutique price was, well, you know. I know, I said, forcing a smile. Why are you selling it? She asked, her eyes wide and innocent. Did you find something better? I looked at her. I could tell her the truth. I could tell her to run. I could tell her that love is a scam and men are liars and she should take that $2,000 and invest it in an index fund, but she looked so happy. It just didn't fit right, I lied. Changed my mind on the style. Well, your loss is my gain, she chirped. She handed me a thick envelope of cash. Thank you so much, Lana. You saved my wedding. I hope you have a beautiful day, Maria, I said, and I meant it. I watched her drive away, the white dress laid carefully across her back seat. I got in my car. I looked at the envelope of cash. $2,500. I drove straight to the home improvement store. I need paint, I told the guy at the counter. Blue. Not baby blue. Like electric, punch-you-in-the-face sapphire blue. For an accent wall? He asked. for a whole new life, I said. 3 weeks later, the silence in the condo was starting to feel less like peace and more like loneliness. I needed to get out, but I couldn't go to the places I used to go with Davis. No wine bars, no fancy brunch spots. I signed up for a pottery class at a community center in East Austin. It was unpretentious. The studio smelled like wet earth and dust. I sat at a wheel wearing an old t-shirt. The instructor, a woman named Eartha, obviously, was demonstrating how to center the clay. If you are not centered, the clay will wobble, Eartha intoned. Life lesson, people. I slapped a lump of gray clay onto my wheel. I hit the pedal. The wheel spun. I squeezed the clay. It immediately flew off the wheel and hit the person next to me in the chest. Oh my God, I gasped. The guy next to me looked down at his shirt. There was a gray, wet splat right over his heart. He looked up. He had messy dark hair, glasses that were sliding down his nose, and a crooked grin. Well, he said, at least your aim is good. I am so sorry. I scrambled for a towel. I've never done this before. I'm a hazard. I'm Miles, he said, wiping the clay off his shirt, just smearing it further. And don't worry. Last week I made a bowl that collapsed and looked so sad the instructor actually lit a candle for it. I laughed. It was a real laugh, not the polite chuckle I used at work. I'm Lana, I said, and I think I'm going to be terrible at this. Being terrible is the fun part, Miles said. He threw his own clay onto the wheel. It wobbled aggressively. See, perfection is overrated. We spent the next 2 hours wrestling with mud. My hands were covered in gray slop. My hair was falling out of its bun. I had clay on my cheek. For 2 hours, I didn't think about Davis. I didn't think about the texts. I just thought about the spinning wheel and the feeling of the earth moving under my hands. Hey, Miles said as we were washing up at the industrial sinks. My bowl survived. It's lopsided, but it's a bowl. I think that calls for a celebratory drink. There's a dive bar next door. I hesitated. A guy, asking me for a drink. My instinct was to say no. Too soon. Too messy. But then I looked at Miles. He wasn't slick. He wasn't wearing a $400 shirt. He had clay in his hair. Okay, I said, but I look like a swamp creature. We match, he said. The bar was called the Rusty Nail. It was dark, sticky, and loud. We sat in a booth with peeling vinyl seats. What are you drinking? Miles asked. Oh, I paused. With Davis, he always ordered for me. A Pinot Grigio for the lady. I don't know. Do you like gin? Miles asked. They make a decent gimlet here, or we could just do cheap beer. Gin, I said. I want gin. He went to the bar and came back with 2 drinks. He didn't check his phone. He didn't put it on the table. He just sat there and looked at me. So, Lana, he said, what brings you to the world of competitive clay throwing? I needed a distraction, I said. I decided to try something new, radical honesty. My fiancé dumped me via text on my birthday last month. I sold my wedding dress in a parking lot and decided I needed to get my hands dirty. Miles blinked. He took a sip of his drink. Wow, he said. That's a heavy opener. Respect. Too much? I grimaced. Sorry, I'm not good at the dating game. No. Miles shook his head. I appreciate the efficiency. Beats talking about the weather for 20 minutes. So text message? Really? 34 words, I said. I counted. Guy sounds like a coward, Miles said, and an idiot. He was, I said. He is. Well, Miles raised his glass, here's to dodging bullets. And here's to lopsided bowls. We talked for 3 hours. We argued about the best tacos in Austin. He was wrong, he liked Torchy's. I was a Veracruz loyalist. We talked about his job. He was a landscape architect, which explained the dirt under his fingernails. He interrupted me. I interrupted him. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't the polished, rehearsed banter I had with Davis. It was messy. It was real. At 11 p.m., he walked me to my car. I had fun, he said. even though you almost killed me with a projectile." "I had fun too," I said, and I was surprised to find that it was true. He didn't try to kiss me. He just smiled. "See you at pottery next week, swamp creature." "See you there, Clayface." 3 months later, July. The Texas heat was oppressive, a physical weight on the air. I was attending the wedding of Sarah and Mike, mutual friends of mine in Davis. I had debated not going. I knew he would be there. But Jules told me, if you don't go, he thinks you're hiding. If you go and you look hot, you win. So I went. I wore the sapphire blue dress I had bought with the rest of the dress money. It was backless. It was bold. I brought Miles as my +1. We weren't official, but we were something. He wore a suit that actually fit him, though he still looked a little rumpled in a charming way. We walked into the reception hall. The AC was blasting. "Do you see him?" Miles whispered, leaning down to my ear. "Not yet." I scanned the room. Then I saw him. He was standing by the open bar, alone. My breath hitched. I expected him to look the same, handsome, arrogant, maybe a little tired, but still Davis. He looked gray. He had lost weight, but not in a good way. His suit jacket hung off his shoulders. His face was gaunt. He was holding a Scotch glass with a white-knuckle grip. He was staring at his phone, scrolling. He looked like a ghost haunting his own life. "That's him?" Miles asked. "Yeah." "He looks—" Miles searched for the word. "Defeated." Davis looked up. His eyes locked onto mine. For a second, I saw a flash of the old Davis, the reflex to smile, to wave. Then he saw Miles. He saw Miles's hand on the small of my back. Davis's face crumbled. It wasn't anger. It was pure, unadulterated misery. I didn't look away. I didn't glare. I just looked at him like he was a stranger I used to know. Then I turned to Miles. "Let's get a drink." An hour later, I went to the restroom. I should have known. It's the classic ambush spot. As I walked out of the ladies' room, washing my hands, I saw him waiting in the narrow hallway. He was leaning against the wall, swirling his ice cubes. "Lana." His voice was rough. He sounded like he'd been smoking, which he never used to do. "Davis," I said. I didn't stop walking. He stepped in front of me, blocking the path. "You look incredible," he said. His eyes raked over the blue dress. "Blue was always your color. I don't know why I made you wear beige." "I liked the beige," I said, until I didn't. "Excuse me." "Who's the guy?" he asked, a bitter edge creeping into his voice. "The shaggy one? He looks like a gardener." "He's a landscape architect," I said, "and he knows how to break up with someone to their face." Davis flinched. "Lana, please, I'm dying here. Everyone hates me. My mom, Darla. Everyone looks at me like I'm a monster." "You're not a monster, Davis," I said softly. He looked hopeful. "I'm not." "No," I said. "You're just a coward, which is so much more boring." "I made a mistake," he hissed, leaning in. It was a midlife crisis. I panicked. I missed you the second I sent that text. Why didn't you fight for me? If you had just called me, if you had just come over, we could have fixed it. I stared at him. The audacity. "You wanted me to fight?" I asked. "You wanted me to scream and cry so you could feel like a prize? You wanted me to do the work of fixing what you broke? I wanted to know you cared," he shouted. "I did care," I said. "I cared enough to plan a life with you. But the moment you sent that text, you showed me who you really were. And I don't fight for garbage, Davis. I take it out." I stepped around him. He grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but desperate. "I still love you." I looked down at his hand. Then I looked at his face. "'Kay," I said. He let go like he'd been burned. I walked back to the reception. Miles was waiting for me with a piece of cake. "Everything okay?" he asked, handing me a fork. "Perfect," I said. "Let's dance." August. The condo was finally done. The beige walls were gone. The living room was a deep, moody teal. The bedroom was the sapphire blue. The furniture was eclectic. Vintage velvet chairs, a rugged wooden coffee table Miles had built for me, and plants. So many plants. I was hosting a dinner party. Jules was there with her new girlfriend. Miles was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and making a mess. I was setting the table with my own pottery. Lopsided plates, wonky bowls glazed in chaotic purples and greens. "This place," Jules said, looking around, "it finally has a pulse." "It feels like me," I said. I looked at the group, my friends, my messy, imperfect, loud friends. There was no seating chart. There was no aesthetic. We were drinking wine out of mismatched glasses. Miles came out with a tray of roasted vegetables. He kissed me on the cheek. "Food's up." I looked at the spot where the $400 lamp used to be. Now there was a thriving monstera plant in a pot I had made myself. I raised my glass. "To restructuring," I said, smiling at Jules. Jules cackled. "To high yields." We ate. We laughed. We spilled wine on the rug, and I didn't care. October 14th, the date that should have been my wedding day. I took the day off work, not because I was sad, but because I wanted to go hiking with Miles. As we were walking out the door, I checked the mail. There was a thick, cream-colored envelope, heavy stock, handwritten address. I knew that handwriting. It was sharp, angular. Davis. My stomach gave a little lurch. Not love, not hate, just memory. Miles saw me pause. "Everything okay?" I looked at the envelope. It was thick. Pages and pages. The explanation. The closure. The apology I had allegedly been waiting for. He probably poured his heart out. He probably explained why his childhood trauma made him fear commitment. He probably begged for one last chance. I could open it. I could read it. I could know why. But then I looked at Miles, holding the car keys, wearing his hiking boots. I looked at the blue wall behind me. I realized I didn't care why. The why didn't change the what. "Junk mail," I said. I walked over to the recycling bin in the kitchen. I dropped the envelope in. Unopened. "Ready?" I asked. "Ready," Miles said. We walked out the door, and I locked it behind me. 3 months later, I'm sitting at my kitchen island, the one I paid off last month, drinking coffee out of the very first bowl I made. It sits at a 15-degree angle. The glaze is patchy. It is, objectively, a terrible bowl, but it holds the coffee. Miles is in the shower. Mochi is purring on my lap. I just got an email from Sloan. My team crushed the Phoenix project. I'm up for another bonus. I haven't heard from Davis since the letter. Jules told me he moved to Dallas. He's working a lower-level sales job. He lives in a studio apartment. Apparently, he's working on himself. I think about the K. People ask me how I did it, how I stayed so calm, how I didn't burn his clothes or key his car. The truth is, silence was the most violent thing I could do to him. Davis was a man who lived for his own reflection. He needed to be the hero, or the tragic victim, or even the villain. He needed to be the main character. By saying K and blocking him, I denied him a role in the movie. I turned him into an extra. I turned him into background noise. He wanted a war. I gave him a void, and in that void I built a life that is messy and colorful and loud and mine. I take a sip of coffee. The bowl wobbles a little when I set it down. It's perfect. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.